Okay everyone, fair to say that excitement is building amongst the Celtic support ahead of a new season in the UEFA Champions League. Yes, we're on a one-match winning run, of course, who could forget that? So can we build on that and dish out some more scalpings to Europe's greatest teams? It's certainly been a great few years for that kind of thing if you're a Celtic fan. But hey-ho, the new format has brought new excitement, it's fair to say. We'll have 4 matches at Celtic Park this time as opposed to the previous 3, and the stadium and the atmosphere and the Celtic support will once again earn plaudits as the finest in Europe. Now, we've had some big names praise our famous atmosphere over the years, and it will come as no shock to you that that's what we're talking about today. Okay, I'm not going to mess around too much today because we've got a lot of quotes to get through. One thing I'm going to say, just in case this video goes large, please subscribe to the channel if you've just found us. Talk about Celtic every day, Monday to Friday, weekends as well actually, 7 AM. Yeah, that's kind of the story. So give us a sub, please, if you haven't already. Much appreciated. Right, we're starting with Sir Alex Ferguson, a man who has tasted many a defeat in Glasgow, both in his time when he was managing in Scotland and also with Manchester United in 2006. A couple of years later, we played Manchester United again, and Ferguson said, anyone going to Celtic Park now is saying you've got to beat that atmosphere and the energy they spend in their games. That 2008 game ended in a 1-1 draw. I've actually got more memories of that match than the one 2 years prior, just due to the age I was. I was kind of, what would have been, like 10 years old back in that Nakamura game in 06, and I was at both games, but you don't really fully remember them at that age. I remember, as I say, the 2008 game a bit more. Scott McDonald's brilliant goal, Manchester United pegging us back. The atmosphere for both of those games was amazing. The 2006 one was just incredible though. That Nakamura free kick. I mean, I was thinking, in terms of like the quality of the goal and the occasion and what it meant, would that be the single finest goal we've scored in the 21st century? Probably no. There's probably one that eclipses it, and it's the obvious one, Henrik Larsson's dink chip over Stefan Klos after he'd left about 3 Rangers players in a heap. That would probably be number 1. Nakamura second after that. Maybe Tom Rogic would be in there as well in terms of quality and what it meant and all that stuff. But Nakamura, amazing. Artur Boric, amazing. What a night. A couple of players that played that night as well in 2006, Wayne Rooney and Nemanja Vidic. Wayne Rooney, Celtic Park is inspiring and intimidating. It's a stadium with a particular atmosphere you want to experience as a player. He said recently, didn't he, that Celtic were a team he would have loved to play for. I think it was an interview with Gary Neville, and he said that. I think we've seen images of his kids, certainly one of his kids wearing a Celtic kit. So Wayne Rooney clearly has a soft spot for Celtic. Right, Nemanja Vidic, a man who is most famous for clearly hacking down Jiri Jarosik for the aforementioned Nakamura free kick. Definite foul. He said, every game I have played in Turkey stands out for passion created by the fans, but the best has been at Celtic Park. Now, when it comes to brilliant football teams, the best I've ever seen is the Barcelona team. Well, if you give it a kind of wide range and say from like 2008 when they won the Champions League, all the way to maybe about 2014, possibly later, to be honest. But what an incredible team. Some of the players they had, Iniesta, Piqué, Xavi, Puyol, of course, Messi. And all of those guys got to sample Celtic Park at one stage or more often than that, because we played Barcelona a number of times between like 2003 and 2016. Was that the last time we played them? I think we drew them, off the top of my head, maybe 5 different times. Maybe 6 actually, because we got them, I think, in 3 Champions League group stages. We got them in the last 16 of the Champions League. What's that, 4? We got them in 4 Champions League group stages, because we got them in like 2004 when Henrik Larsson scored against us, and also the UEFA Cup one when we won. So that would be 6 different meetings with Barcelona, and we actually did quite well against them generally. And those unbelievable players that I've just mentioned have all had something to say about the Celtic Park atmosphere in the years since. Xavi. The atmosphere generated by the fans in Celtic Stadium for our visit was the most impressive I've ever witnessed. So impressive, in fact, that he inexplicably allowed the ball to go past him and into the path of Tony Watt. Like, that was the most unlike Xavi thing ever. He was always just so cool, and he made the error. And was it something to do with the atmosphere? Well, I like to believe so, and Tony Watt obviously took advantage. Great player though, Xavi. Gerard Piqué. The atmosphere at Celtic Park is the best in Europe. Likewise, the greatest player I've ever seen. Many would argue the greatest player ever, Lionel Messi. Celtic Park is the best atmosphere in Europe, and we all want to experience that again. Messi has also revealed that he has Celtic shirts in his home because he wants to always remember the meetings he had against our club. He still did very well against us, scored a number of goals that I can remember, but I guess he did that against everyone he played against. What a player. Right, Carlos Puyol. Celtic supporters are spectacular. They are the best. He didn't feature in either of the 2012 or the 2013 matches because he, I think, retired by then, but certainly prior to that he played against us. We had Andreas Iniesta, another one of my favourite players ever. I'll never forget playing against Celtic. The atmosphere is one of the best in the world. I was fortunate to play there several times, and it was always so intense. It was an honour to play amid such incredible noise. Yeah, that night in 2012 was just mad. The thing I remember about that is, like, and it's a weird thing to say about a game that we won and Barcelona lost, but I just remember Barcelona being so good. Like, they just never gave the ball away. Even when we were putting them under pressure and they were penned into a corner, they would somehow find a way to go pop, pop, pop and play out. What a team. The only time we ever got the ball back in that match was for a goal kick, if they put a shot over the bar or whatever, or if Fraser Forster held on to a save. We know the kind of stuff about the lack of possession we had and chances, and looking back at the chances they had and the kind of limited chances we had, it is a bit of a miracle that we won that game, but I firmly believe there was something in the air that night, because we just had like our big kind of anniversary thing the previous night, and there was just a feeling that night that something could happen, especially after we'd gone so close away from home. But yeah, Fraser Forster was a huge part of it that night. I'd say probably the best goalkeeping performance I've ever seen. But then again, it's probably not even the best Fraser Forster performance I've ever seen, because I think his performance against Rangers in his second spell at the club in the League Cup final, for me, was probably even better. But that night against Barcelona, he wasn't bad either. I think he made like 4 or 5 like stunning saves in that game. And yeah, what an effort it was to win that game. The tifo before the match. What a night. No wonder it left such an impression on the likes of Messi and Iniesta. Okay, next we're dropping in on former Liverpool captain Steven Gerrard to find out what he makes of the, Lions' Den at Celtic Park. Speaking a number of years ago, he said, "The incredible thing was the people. For an opposition player, it is quite incredible. I have not seen a better atmosphere from the grounds I have visited." Very interesting. Cristiano Ronaldo, the Celtic fans are incredible. It is always great to play there. Now, an iconic quote that your dad almost certainly has as his bio on Twitter, and it comes from Paolo Maldini. "Every professional footballer should seek to play at least one game at Celtic Park. I have never felt anything like it." That's like the best quote, isn't it? If you just kind of read what they're actually saying, every professional footballer should seek to play at least one game at Celtic Park. Fantastic. I think he would have played more than one. He certainly played, I think, in the last 16 Champions League game in 2007. I think that would be the 0-0 one, and then the one we went away to Milan and went to extra time, and then Kaká decided to just score an incredible goal and put us out of Europe Neil Lennon should still have brought him down, but we don't need to go into that. Paolo Maldini, what a guy. I guess maybe a slightly older generation would remember him quite possibly as one of the best defenders they've ever seen. So again, these are like the biggest names in our sport that are going to Celtic Park and are speaking about the atmosphere. It's I must admit, it's quite cool, all of this stuff to me. I know some people, well, I think, to be honest, everyone would much rather we won games and we got plaudits for our atmosphere. I know it's become a bit of a thing recently that people turn up, batter us in Europe and then praise the atmosphere, and it feels a little bit patronising sometimes, but these are major figures praising the atmosphere, and most of them were back in the day when we got big results against big European teams. I mean, the record we had in the early 21st century was remarkable when you look back at it. In terms of the last truly elite side, truly major side to visit Celtic Park, it would be Real Madrid 2 years ago. Apologies any Atletico fans watching. It's actually 2 years ago yesterday as you're watching this on Saturday. If you're watching this today, the video came out. So pretty much 2 years ago. And it was an amazing night as we re-entered the UEFA Champions League after a number of years in the doldrums. And wouldn't you just know, our first match was at Celtic Park against the defending champions Real Madrid. It was a bit of a dream. We were incredible in the first half. We were the better team, I would say, in the first half. Not by a lot, but marginally, which isn't bad against a team like Real Madrid. Dyson Maeda missed his big chance at the start of the second half. And then the likes of Vinicius Junior and Luka Modric and Toni Kroos really showed their class. And Madrid ended up beating us very, very comfortably, 3-0. But the night still left a bit of a mark on the German Kroos. And speaking in a podcast shortly afterwards, he said, "I was being asked several times which stadium is my favourite, and there is a new number one. I can tell you, Celtic Park. It has been just crazy. We came out and the atmosphere was good. The Champions League anthem started and I thought the stadium was going to collapse. Unbelievable. I had never experienced anything like that." Pretty sure there was actually like a cool clip. Someone had caught them, I think it was it maybe Kroos and Courtois walking off the pitch and kind of like clapping the Celtic support. Modric might have been involved as well. Yeah, those guys were just class that night. I really, as much as we went down to 3-0 defeat and there was disappointment, I think, at full time, I remember the fans getting like so behind the team, even in the closing stages of that match as we were behind. If we go back to near the start of the 21st century, and there's a famous night that I was too young to actually be at or even watch. I may have watched it, I don't remember. But it's a night people always talk about, the night Bayern Munich, the might of Bayern Munich celebrated a draw at Celtic Park. And I think there was kind of factors behind that, a bit of context, given the way the group was lying. And I think a draw basically made it quite difficult for us to qualify. I think Lyon away was our last game, and I remember we struggled in that one in the end. Had some moments, I think, remember John Hartson scoring. It's weird the things you remember. But anyway, that Bayern Munich night, we were the better team, passed up some chances, and a couple of their players that night spoke really highly of the atmosphere. The Flying Pig himself, I hope that's a well-known nickname for him and not one that my family have used. Oliver Kahn, the atmosphere here tonight was unbelievable, and it's an honour to play in such an arena. Owen Hargreaves, who, yes, he played for Bayern Munich, surprisingly, also spoke positively after the 0-0 draw. When we played at Celtic Park for Bayern in the Champions League, it was unbelievable, and I think all our players said the same thing afterwards. The atmosphere was just totally unique. I played in lots of big games and stadiums, but I've never witnessed fans making that much noise in 90 minutes. Finally, Zlatan Ibrahimovic, who did play at Celtic Park just a few years ago. It's a game that you've probably forgot even happened. You weren't there, I can tell you categorically, unless you're a Celtic player, former Celtic player or former AC Milan player. I don't know. You might be Zlatan Ibrahimovic. It was a COVID match. AC Milan won 3-1. But the quotes from Ibrahimovic are actually from his first visit to Celtic Park, right at the start of the 21st century when he was an Ajax player. That famous UEFA Champions League qualifying tie. He came on as a second half sub that night, but the famous atmosphere still left a bit of an impression on him. I have played in the biggest games in world football, but I have never experienced an atmosphere like I did at Celtic Park. So plenty of plaudits from some of the world's biggest names for our wonderful atmosphere. And you're going to see that again in this year's UEFA Champions League. In terms of the league phase, it's a little bit different, I think, for us, because we're not going to have any major names coming to Glasgow, as I say, in this part of the competition. RB Leipzig are the biggest team we're going to face, the best team we're going to face. So there's no Real Madrid, there's no Barcelona or Bayern Munich coming to Glasgow. But I think you're still going to see, a pretty incredible atmosphere for these games. Possibly better because we've got a real chance of getting results. I mean, Leipzig game's going to be massive. You're then going to have, Slovan Bratislava in the opening match, Club Brugge, Young Boys also coming to Celtic Park. And maybe that will afford us an opportunity to try and get some big wins at Celtic Park again and maybe turn it into some sort of a fortress. I don't think we're ever going to get it back to the stage from the early 21st century, but maybe we can take some steps this season. Yeah, I can't wait for it all to start, and hopefully the team can get some results and back up the backing that we all show them.